So, the news never gets any better with Trudeau. And we know that he admires the Chinese Communist Party because he's told us.
There's a level of admiration I actually have for China. Because their basic dictatorship is allowing them to actually turn their economy around on a dime.
That was 2014, and boy, he wasn't kidding. So it's no surprise that he's still determined to turn Canada into a version of that. Here's the headline from True North. Mendocino pledges to rush through controversial online safety bill. Now, online safety bill is a euphemism for a thought crime bill. And Justin believes that in Canada, anything that criticizes him or his policies is a thought crime.
The small fringe minority of people who are on their way to Ottawa or who are holding unacceptable views that they're expressing.
Now, we're actually going to go to the bill and take a look at it because it's unbelievably authoritarian. We're talking pre-crime here. On Monday, Liberal Public Safety Minister Marco Mendocino pledged to rush through internet censorship legislation once Parliament returns in the fall. Yeah, there's a lot of other problems in Canada, but this has got to come first, because censorship is so close to Trudeau's heart. Anyway, according to Blacklock's reporter, Mendocino said his government would lean in on the incoming online safety bill. Quote, "I assure you that Heritage Minister Pablo Rodriguez and others within our government are leaning in on this and will bring forward the legislation as quickly as possible." Prior to the last federal election, the Liberals attempted to introduce Bill C-36, which would amend the criminal code to charge people with up to $70,000 in fines or house arrest for being likely to foment detestation or vilification of an individual or group. Really, Justin? You mean like this?
And to Canadians at home, watching in disgust and disbelief at this behavior, wondering how this could have happened in our nation's capital after.
And look at this language, likely to foment detestation. Likely to, not has, but likely to. Yes, this is every bit as bad as it looks. The Independent Press Gallery has said, the proposal is overly broad and unworkable. It encroaches on free expression and fails to provide adequate protection to ensure that the executive or regulator exercise their authority reasonably. The mechanisms and results proposed will stifle communication, infringe on basic freedoms, and suppress diversity of perspectives. And that is, of course, the point.
There's a level of admiration I actually have for China.
That's the point of getting a regulator to decide what everybody can say. But let's take a look at Bill C-36 here. An act to amend the Criminal Code and the Canadian Human Rights Act and to make related amendments to another act, hate propaganda, hate crimes, and hate speech. So let's take a look at the amendments to the act here. How about this part here? Subsection of the act is amended by adding the following in alphabetical order. Hatred means the emotion that involves detestation or vilification and that is stronger than dislike or disdain. And what does that mean exactly? Well, it could mean a lot of things, and I think that's the point. Exclusions. For greater certainty, the communication of a statement does not incite or promote hatred for the purposes of this section solely because it discredits, humiliates, hurts, or offends. Okay, well, that sounds good, so that's excluded, right? But we've got up here, hatred in the context of hate speech means an emotion that involves detestation or vilification, and that is stronger than dislike or disdain. This all seems very nebulous to me. And again, I think that's exactly the point. And here we get to the really dystopian part of this. Fear of hate propaganda, offense, or hate crime. A person may, with the Attorney General's consent, lay in information before a provincial court judge if the person fears, on reasonable grounds, that another person will commit. So if a person fears on reasonable grounds that another person will commit, again, this is just utterly subjective, isn't it? But anyway, another person will commit An offense motivated by bias, prejudice, or hate based on race, national or ethnic origin, language, color, religion, sex, age, mental or physical disability, sexual orientation, gender identity or expression, or any other similar factor. Does it include people who wear glasses? This is totally insane. Age, I guess okay boomers out, right? If you don't want to go to jail. Language, I mean, are you allowed to still criticize French-speaking Canadians? And, I mean, this is if somebody fears that you're going to commit an offense motivated by all of these different things. Nobody can possibly know, nobody's a mind reader. This is about thought crime. I mean, what are the kinds of things you won't be able to talk about? Can you criticize immigration policy? Can you say the infrastructure in Canada is being stretched to the breaking point? Maybe we need to have another look at the immigration policy in Canada. Is that going to be considered? Will this be reasonable grounds to fear that somebody might commit an offense in the future? Again, this is as dystopian as it gets. I mean, mental disability. Well, now you can't criticize Trudeau. And what about this Canadian Human Rights Tribunal? The tribunal is similar to a court of law. Oh, well, it's similar. I guess that's close enough. But less formal, and only hears cases related to discrimination. Yeah, there's no way that could be a kangaroo court. No way at all. Yeah, this is the same Human Rights Tribunal that ruled against a comedian for making a joke. A ruling he had to take all the way up to the Supreme Court of Canada, which he ended up winning by a razor-thin margin. So what might happen to you if you offend the thought police? Well, you may cause the parties to appear before a provincial court judge. If the provincial court judge before whom the parties appear is satisfied by the evidence adduced that the informant has reasonable grounds for the fear of something you might do. Not something that you're planning on doing or that you ever will do, but that they think you might do. Again, this is insanity. The judge may order that the defendant enter into recognizance to keep the peace and be of good behavior for a period of not more than 12 months. So sit down and shut up. However, if the provincial court judge is also satisfied that the defendant was convicted previously of any offense referred to in subsection 1, the judge may order the defendant enter into the recognizance for a period of not more than 2 years. So now you've got to shut up and take it for 2 years. So what happens if you don't want to go along with all this? Well, the provincial court judge may commit the defendant to prison for a term of not more than 12 months if the defendant fails or refuses to enter into the recognizance. And of course, it gets worse. The provincial court judge may add any reasonable conditions to the recognizance that the judge considers desirable to secure the good conduct of the defendant, including conditions that A, require the defendant to wear an electronic monitoring device if the Attorney General makes that request, require the defendant to return to and remain at their place of residence at specific times, so house arrest. And remember, keep in mind, this is if somebody thinks you might do something in the future, no matter how ridiculous that is. Require the defendant to abstain from the consumption of drugs, except in accordance with a medical prescription of alcohol or of any other intoxicating substance. So now they're telling you what you can put in your body. Require the defendant to provide, for the purpose of analysis, sample of bodily substance. I mean, they want to do tests on you as well. Prohibit the defendant from communicating directly or indirectly with any person identified in the recognizance, or refrain from going to any place specified in the recognizance, except in accordance with the conditions specified in the recognizance that the judge considers necessary. So they're going to tell you who you can talk to and also where you can go. There might be places you're not allowed to go. So what can I say? I mean, Trudeau has got to be voted out. If you're watching this in Canada, you've got to share information like this with your friends and family. Because most Canadians don't understand. They still don't understand just how demented this Liberal government is. Because the mainstream media is going to either report on this sort of thing as little as possible or give Canadians just a completely skewed view of it. But in any case, as I say, Trudeau has got to be voted out in the next election. Let's hope it happens soon. Anyway, please subscribe, like, and share. Sharing really helps me out. I thank you for doing that. I will see you next time.